Welcome back to the Planet of Destiny. Here for Game of the Year 1972. There really is only one choice for 1972, and that is Pong. Unless you want to take the argument that Oregon Trail came out in 1972, which is sort of true, but the version that came out in 1972 is essentially unplayable these days, as it wasn't really a video game yet. It was a computer game, yes, but not a video game. It was just all on printout cards. But Pong is playable somewhat in its original state. It's not quite as easy to find the original because there's lots and lots of clones out there. I have played the original at the National Video Game Museum in Frisco. They have a giant version. Like the controller is like this huge, wide steering wheel for each person, and it's all played on a huge screen. It's very entertaining, but I believe it is running the original version of the game. But we have a sort of retro-ish copy version of this. It helpfully lets me play as against the CPU, which is cool. And also, I want to show off this feature because it's really cool. So, it's currently 8:47 p.m. here. It's a clock. You can just run the program as a clock. I love it. Big fan. Wait, hang on. This is solo mode. Okay, we're going to try that out, but just for classic Pong, we're going to play against the computer. I believe the original... No, the original must have had a computer because otherwise you'd have to wait till two people came along. Be kind of weird. But hey, it was 1972. The computer's an idiot. Look at that. It's already failed. So I believe the original locks you off at 11. Did some experimenting earlier. This one just seems to keep going. I got all the way up to 30, and I couldn't be bothered to try any more. So I think for the roleplay, we'll end up just cutting off at 11. Unfortunate. Crap. We'll also play to 11 today. But I'm actually really struggling to figure out what to do with the roleplay. I think we'll just end up doing a sort of... I have a sudden urge to stop that square. And I've been looking into... I'm thinking I might be able to have the roleplay character be from a 2D dimension, and then the first time we get to a 3D dimension, we'll be very disorientated. I think that could be very interesting, because that's really something that's almost never explored in fiction. Beings that exist with different dimensions than our own. I mean, you kind of see four-dimensional beings, I guess, that see time differently, but that's a little less weird to visualize. I mean, quite frankly, it is impossible to visualize anything lower than what we can perceive, which is 3D, really. We cannot look at time. We can only see one piece of time in it. At a time. It's unfortunate use of words. But the concept holds that a four-dimensional being would somehow be able to look and see, oh, this is going to happen now, and this is going to happen then. Just as if you were two-dimensional, you would not be able to perceive anything but a line in front of you. You would just perceive... maybe you could perceive curve, but you just sort of perceive edges. It's a very strange concept, really. Probably why no one explores it in fiction. I suppose you could do it in a book. But you can't even describe it because no one can possibly know what that's like because it's basically impossible. But yeah, I think Pong is definitely the first classic video game. Most people have forgotten about Space War and Galaxy Game and all that stuff we covered last year. But Pong is very widely remembered. I think it's just because it's so simple. It's just a tennis game. And I can see it being addicting when there's no other types of games to play. Could probably turn the speed up on this. I just figured out how I can end the series, though. If I can cut it right when it hits the... Oh, God. When it crosses my boundary, the game freezes. If I can just leave it at that and just have like a momentary freeze, and then we move on to the third game. I'm sure these will be less jarring to watch when I'm not recording them like months apart. But it'll be nice to get to the first game with a plot and a character. Because the character that we're going to have for this is basically just... I guess it's just a simple computer program that sees, oh, dot, must stop dot. Let's say we're role-playing the same character as the computer, but it's deliberately missing stuff, because if it was perfect, it could probably hit every time. But that wouldn't be any fun, so it's designed to deliberately mess up. It's funny watching games where the computer's designed to just mess up by itself. Like if you play Dirt 2, there are like certain moments where one truck will just randomly flip over. It'll just have a bad landing, and then, oh, truck's rolling. Don't run into that. It makes it very exciting, but it just becomes a little predictable after a while. That's what always gets me. When it hits the side like that, you just can't really see what you're doing. So the other game I'm worried about finding a retro copy of is Breakout. Because that game gets released like every year in some new format or other. Because that game really is addicting and timeless. It's certainly taking longer than Galaxy. Do we play Galaxy Game? Oh, no, we play Computer Space. That's right. Almost won by our standards. It's also this, like, they both games, this and Computer Space, have a weird arbitrary number as the end. Like, Computer Space is on a 100-second timer. But why? I think it was, in that case, because they could use a 2-digit timer, but they could not use a 3-digit timer, so they just maxed out the 2-digit one of 1 at this point. But yeah, you see that freeze? If I just cut it off there. But in the original, once you finish, the paddles just disappear and the ball starts bouncing around. I checked out a YouTube video of someone capturing from a real arcade machine before. But yeah, I did want to check out Solo, so let's check out Solo. So in this, we just bounce it off a wall. I suppose we could technically do this for the roleplay, but that would be kind of weird. And just that is the end. But this is essentially like unwinnable version, as if the computer has an infinitely sized paddle that you can never get past. This is just racquetball. Is it racquetball or squash? It's just squash, isn't it? This is not very interesting. That's all this game has to offer, though. I think we can wrap it up there. We'll be back next week to do the roleplay. Won't have an intro like last time. I'm just going to jump straight into it. Will be jarring if anybody stumbles upon it. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying this series. We'll be getting to 73 once I've done our review of 2018's best album, No Tourists by Prodigy, and then the new TV show of the year, new band of the year, and actually 2018 might be the first year I'm able to record the TV show of the year. Just waiting to get access to some of the newer shows for that. It's obviously a little easier to get access to things which are 2 or 3 years old than things that are brand new. So working on that. Hope to see you again soon.